Oiko-Dome.
Welcome to the last video of encouragements from Peter, a study through 1 Peter. Today, we're in chapter 5, verses 12 to 14, the final verses of Peter's first letter. Peter's going to wrap up his message, leaving his final words of encouragement to the church. By Silvanus, a faithful brother as I regard him, I have written briefly to you, exhorting and declaring that this is the true grace of God. Stand firm in it. She who is in Babylon, who is likewise chosen, sends you greetings. And so does Mark, my son. Greet one another with the kiss of love. Peace to all of you who are in Christ. Peter is signing off, and he mentions this dude named Silvanus. Silvanus is a Roman name. We know very little about him, but what we do know is that he may have been the one who delivered this letter, or someone in this community who Peter has helped and discipled. He also has connections to Paul, and he was probably a Roman based on his name. And Peter encourages him alongside this whole church to stand firm in the faith. Peter then says, she who is in Babylon, this is symbolic writing. Babylon is often used to refer to the oppression from Rome. That this is probably a reference to the church throughout Rome, giving the scope of the Christian movement of the time, that we are all standing on the true grace of God. Peter then mentions Mark, who is the author of the book of Mark. He was a disciple of Peter. I've heard it said like this, that the Gospel of Mark is the closest thing we have to the Gospel of Peter, because Mark was deeply influenced by Peter. Peter took him under his wing, and Peter even says in this letter, my son. He was very close to Mark. And after Peter gives these shout outs of encouragement to them and to this dude, he says, greet each other with a kiss of love. And this, on first read, may give you the ick. But a kiss of love was not the same as a kiss between a husband and wife. And by Peter saying, greet each other with this kiss, this assumes that reconciliation has already happened and been pursued. Peter is encouraging this church to practice unity and reconciliation, to extend that deep unity that a family shares with each other. And he says, greet each other, that this is a first priority, this unity, reconciliation. Peter's final encouragement to us is treat the church like your family. This is already the spirit of the apostles. We see Paul regard Timothy and Titus as his son. Peter in this passage regards Mark as his son. John called most believers as a whole his children. You see salvation in the adoption into the family of God. Yes, I understand that today the family of God feels like that huge family reunion that has a ton of different last names. You have the Catholics and the Orthodox who can point you to the beginning of the family reunion. You have the Protestants who were adding later into the family, bringing all sorts of last names like Lutheran, Baptist, Methodist. You now have independents and some crazy cousins that we question their connection to the family. But in this huge family, we still are united by the grace of God. If we call on Jesus alone for salvation, in Christ's death and resurrection, we find salvation. We are adopted into the family of God. And we should treat each other like family. And you don't have to start with a capital C church, showing every denomination the affection and care and protection. Maybe just start today with your local church, with your Sunday school class or your small group, then extend it to more and more, growing that community of believers around you. A Christian community starts with small acts of genuine kindness. These aren't elaborate events or giant feasts, but in your small group, if someone gives you a prayer request, do you remember it? Do you pray for it? Do you bring it up the next time you meet? No matter how small the small act of kindness are, Those acts show you are trustworthy with the small things that grow your connection with each other. It's not rocket science, but it is intentional relationship building that grows into a Christ-centered community. This allows Christ's work in our hearts to spill over into our community, sharing in suffering and strugglings, sharing in joy and desires, being shaped by God for the glory of God. Hold each other to the standards set out by the apostles to develop a Christ-like character, sharing the beauty of the goodness of God, loving the broken and calling them out of darkness, sharing the gospel which our hope is refined by, because our witness is rooted in Christ-like character, and our character reflects our testimony. Our testimony tells others about the good work Christ has done in our lives. Peter's letter expresses the sentiment to live life for Christ. We can sum up his letter into these two ideas. The first, Christ-like character testifies about the goodness of God. 1 Peter 2:12 says, keep your conduct among the Gentiles as honorable, so that when they speak against you as evildoers, they may see your good deeds and glorify God on the day of visitation. In verse 15 it goes, for this is the will of God, that by doing good you should put to silence the ignorance of foolish people. In chapter 3, 1-12, it says something like this: they may be won without a word by the conduct of their wives, when they see your respectful and pure conduct. In 1 Peter 3:16, it says, have a good conscience, so that when you are slandered, those who revile your good behavior in Christ may be put to shame. Chapter 4 gives this: in order that in everything God may be glorified through Jesus Christ. Peter encourages time after time after time to have a Christ-like character that is a way to glorify God. Because God has adopted us into his family, we want to spend eternity with God, and we spend our lives learning how to love the things of God and reject the spirits of this world, because we are God's people. This is the second point, that in Christ we share the title of God's people. You see this in chapter 2 verse 5, you yourselves like a living stone being built up as a spiritual house. Verse 9 goes, but you are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a people of his own possession. It goes on in 10 saying, once you were not a people, but now you are God's people. Once you have not received mercy, but now you have received mercy. We even see this in the beginning of the letter in chapter 1. He calls them elect exiles according to the foreknowledge of God the Father. You even see this in 1 Peter 4:17 towards the later part of the letter, for it is time for judgment to begin in the household of God. These passages tells us the title we have in Christ, not because we are special, but because Christ is special. Christ made a way for us to share his glory, and because we share his glory, we are not rejected, we are accepted. We may suffer in this limited life, but it's nothing compared to eternity. Our hope is secured in Christ's resurrection. I hope you really enjoyed this journey through 1 Peter as much as I have. There's been a lot to unpack and study. 1 Peter is one of my favorite letters. Peter gives some great encouragements to this church, and I hope you have been encouraged too. Next, we're going to continue this journey through Peter's letters with 2 Peter, exploring how to remain steadfast in faith and grow in the knowledge of Christ. Thank you so much for watching. Please check out the rest of the series if this is your first time watching. I also have a study through James if you want to check that out too. Everything is right here for you. Please check it out. I'll see you in the next one.